I have fallen a lot, and I mean a lot, in the last 2 months. I've fallen 360 times, at least. But I did it for science. For science. Yeah, for science. No, I did it because I crave statistics. I crave the opportunity to see myself become better than I was before. I don't necessarily want to be the best, but I at least want to know that I'm improving in the things that I do. There is a tiny problem, though. Fall Guys doesn't have statistics. It doesn't host statistics anywhere. So nobody really knows if they're good or not, or if they're just another random 6-foot-tall jelly bean thing that's throwing their body against walls, ramps, into the crumpled flesh balls of the mass trying to get through those stupid tiny little doors on DoorDash. Like, come on. Who even designed the doors to be that small? Like, tell me whose idea it was to make the doors tiny and us 6 feet tall. Like, holy shit. But I have stats. In fact, before I even started playing the game, I had a spreadsheet ready to start collecting round data for every episode I played. I wanted to watch my ability to navigate a top-heavy jelly bean around fluorescent tiles get better as I invested more time into it. And above all else, I wanted to know when I was to blame for my loss, or if it was my team's fault that we lost yet another game of Egg Scramble. I needed to know if there was a statistically significant skill advantage on fall ball, for example, or if on certain games I was just doomed to fail because I called heads instead of tails and got on the wrong team. So, I went to work and built my statistical dream. Or at least some of it. See, you can only do so much in terms of statistical inference with just one participant, so I was a little limited in what I could program exactly. At the same time, though, I needed to make sure that this was expandable to multi-participant statistics in the future. There's also the issue of having so many different kinds of games to play, and so many factors to consider. For example, what place do you give yourself on a team game? You all either pass or fail. It's impossible to really score yourself outside of the binary decision of either pass or fail. Does your score really matter at that point? Only sometimes, and only for some statistics. Translating all of these decisions into code took time, but at the end of it, I was able to generate these statistics. So for each run, a timestamp was recorded, followed by a run number, and the number of players that started the run. Since it was very difficult to capture the number of players that actually started a round, I used 60 as the maximum. The name of the game is then recorded and my score. I also record the qualifying number of players for each round, which is the starting number of players for the next round. This continues until I either get knocked out or achieve victory. At the end of the spreadsheet, there's a column that tells me which round I'm out, and the final score that I got in that round. Additionally, there are a number of summary statistics that I've included, like first place, second place, third place, top 5, top 10, and top 25. I also started recording what my overall average was, based on my final scores, and then each average for every 100 runs, so that I can see how well I'm progressing. And while it's all well and good that I now know how well I'm progressing, this is all just raw data. The next step was to run it through the program that I built previously to see if I could find any useful statistics out of it. Since these are discrete events with almost no overlap other than the skill gained from each, I decided to try and map them onto a binomial distribution, using the theoretical probabilities of success, which is getting through to the next round, that I gathered from my research. Remember, the goal of all this work is to figure out which games are luck-based and which games are skill-based. What I found was that there were 7 games that existed where my player win rate was very close to the theoretical probability of getting through to the next round, which indicated to me that these are luck-based games instead of skill-based games, since the chance of me getting through to the next round was essentially the same as the probability. These included Team Tail Tag, Fall Mountain, Fall Ball, Egg Scramble, Gate Crash, Tail Tag, and Jinxed. Jinxed was the most interesting one, but it also has the smallest data set, with only 10 games total, so there would have to be more games of this played to really nail down anything. Alongside these theoretical probabilities was a binomial CDF. Essentially, it's giving me a cumulative distribution function. That is, it's telling me how many people have scored at my level or below, in terms of wins. I don't want to get too far into this because I'll come back to it with some graphs later. That should help you understand it a little better than just me showing you a bunch of numbers in a column. After I was done looking at binomial distributions, I decided to try and see if I could normalize the data and see if it would fit onto a bell curve. For this you need 2 factors. The mean and the variance have to be above 10. In most cases, this worked out fine because I played a whole lot of games. But in some cases, I just didn't have enough games for significance to truly be accepted. These numbers are shown in red below, and the green ones were the ones that you could map onto a normal distribution. I then continued with more stat stuff and looked at the Z-scores to see if I had a strong showing or a weak showing in any of the games specifically. The most interesting score is definitely Rollout, which had a Z-score of 4.69. That puts me in the 99th percentile of wins. Higher than that, but we'll round down to 99. I'd really like to look into this more, because that's a really high number. Z-scores usually only range between -3 and 3. Maybe it is true. Maybe I am in the essentially top 99.999% of all players for that game. With all this in mind, I then decided to try and graph it all and see if I could find some way to visually represent what I had found. I noticed that all of the race games at the start, all of them generally had a very small spread, in that the number of games that the game expected you to get through was very high, and mostly all of them were on the right side of the graph. Essentially, the game wants you to win the first couple races. For most of the games, I was able to eke out a lot of victories, except for Seesaw. It turns out I'm very bad at Seesaw, but the rest of the games I'm pretty good at. Team games were a different story. Most of them were essentially luck-based. At least that's what the data showed. The shining example of this is Jinxed, which had 10 games played, 5 of which were wins and 5 were losses. That's exactly 50%, which is its theoretical probability. Now, of course, Jinxed only having 10 games played means that it isn't really statistically conclusive, but with more games, I would assume that the probabilities would roll the same way. Overall, I concluded that most team games had that luck-based game mechanic, in that if you got a bad team, then you were more likely to lose. And it worked out in terms of probabilities. Egg Scramble was another big one, especially with its low standard deviation, and the Z-score was essentially 0 when you map my scores onto the binomial distribution. The skill games were a little different. Things like Rollout and Perfect Match, they were all very high, with Z-scores close to or around 3. Jump Club was also in there with 3.22. Now, if this was a luck-based game, then it would be assumed that the scores would be closer to the mean. But in these cases, most games were outside of that range, indicating to me that there is some sort of skill component involved. Some games I didn't do very well on, like Slime Climb and Tiptoe, but overall, that's what I found out. Showdown matches, again, I can't derive many things from this, because a lot of the games have a very low % chance of winning, which means you need a very large number of games to make it statistically significant. So that's it. That's what I found out. Some of these statistics look pretty strong so far, but I can't say anything for certain yet. For any of these statistics to hold any water, I need more data than I could possibly ever make by myself. This is where you come in. The loyal and interested Fall Guys viewer. In the description of this video, I have added a link to a downloadable template of my spreadsheet for you to use in Season 2. The document has a tab that has instructions on how to use the spreadsheet, so you don't have to worry about messing anything up. The only thing I ask for in return for your use of it is to send me your data after you've played 50 or more games in Season 2. 100 or more is preferable, but 50 is fine. You can send me your data through the email that is flashing on the screen right now. At the end of Season 2, I'll throw everyone's data into the program that I made and produce a new video letting you know exactly which games are skill-based and which ones are just games of chance like rock and roll. Like seriously, who developed that game? It's absolutely soul-crushing. And if I find whoever started the trend of jamming the enemy ball into the corner so me and my helpless teammates can only watch as our chances of winning the crown are slowly ripped from our fingers, I will hunt you down and end your miserable life. Anyways, thanks again for your support, and I'll see you again at the end of Season 2. Oh yeah? You're gonna post a video? Well, maybe I'll watch it.
Maybe I'll like and subscribe.
And that's the threat.
And you know what? I'll hit the bell icon.
That's
You know what?
the thing for convincing people to join is just being very aggressive about it.